Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to This Week in Jihad with the great David Wood, and I am Robert Spencer, author of the Quran. A 74-year-old botanist from England and his 63-year-old South African wife. And they were in South Africa when they were captured. They were kidnapped by jihadis, two of whom were converts. Saifuddin Aslam Del Vecchio, which I think is really one of the most absurd names I've ever heard. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Del Vecchio Jihad family.
Yeah, you would expect him maybe to be with Vinny the Chin or Vito Corleone, but instead he's Saifuddin Aslam Del Vecchio and Musa Ahmed Jackson. And they
For Tito.
Exactly.
They got Tito, man.
That's it. And they got together with Saifuddin Aslam Del Vecchio's wife, Bibi Fatima Patel, who I believe was born into this religion. And Bibi Fatima Patel and Saifuddin Aslam Del Vecchio and Musa Ahmed Jackson, they kidnapped, robbed, and murdered Rod Sanders and his wife Rachel, two elderly botanists who were out looking at plants, and fed their bodies to the crocodiles. In India, 4 Muslims raped a pregnant Hindu woman, and one of them rather ingenuously explained, "We will go to heaven if we have sex with a Hindu woman." Now, where on earth might he have gotten such an idea? Nigeria, in Azubros Plaza, Nigerians, Azubros Plaza off France Road, Sabongari in Kano State. A couple of gentlemen, Ifeanyi Elekchukwu and his friend Chibuili Emmanuel. They were working in the battery store that Ifeanyi Elekchukwu owned, and the Muslims came in, said they were looking for batteries and that they were customers, and then they killed them. This reminded me of an incident in the life of Muhammad. Tell us about Muhammad Maslama and Ka'b ibn al-Ashraf.
So you're talking about Ka'b. They wanted to kill this guy because he was making fun of Islam, and so they wanted to kill him. And so they acted like they wanted to buy some stuff for him and trade and stuff. So they go in there and they asked Muhammad for permission too. Hey, can we lie to this dude? Muhammad's like, yeah, go ahead. And then it's reading the story is a little creepy because it almost feels like you're there watching this when it says, "Oh, I smell the. Can I smell your hair?" And he moves in and stuff, and it's like,
you've got such
man.
Yes.
Yeah, it's there's something about like sharing like those kind of vivid details, like trying to smell the perfume in his hair and then murdering him and so on, that makes it like stick in your mind.
So that's what they did here. Because when they read stories like that, they think this is how we ought to act. A lot of times we tell these stories to say Islamic tradition is sanctifying deceit, and that's altogether true, but it's much more than that. It's that these things are models for emulation. And so the jihadis in this case who killed Ifeanyi Elekchukwu and Chibuili Emmanuel, they were doing exactly that. Okay, we have Uganda. And this is a story about a woman named Namata Habiba, which is much easier and much more pleasant to say. Namata Habiba, who in Waka Waka village in Bugiri district became a Christian after attending a church service on September 18th. And she went home and she lived with her stepmother, who was a Muslim. And her stepmother said, "Why are you back so late? Where have you been?" And Namata Habiba made the mistake there in Waka Waka village of saying that she was at a church service and had actually converted to Christianity. The stepmother, Namu Sauya, stopped the conversation at that point. Sometime later, she prepared food for them. Namata Habiba ate the food, suspecting nothing, began to vomit, ultimately died of poisoning. She had been served rat poison by her stepmother. Why on earth did that happen, David? What was the idea behind that?
Well, Muhammad said, if anyone leaves his Islamic religion, kill him. And the three of the four schools of Islamic jurisprudence says that the same rule applies to a woman, and one says no, you don't. You lock her up and beat her instead.
Terrible attack in Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, the casualty counts are wildly different in stories that I've seen. The story that I posted at Jihad Watch said that 100 children were killed. Other stories that have circulated in the press say it was far fewer. I hope that is correct. But generally, one finds in these kinds of cases that the larger number turns out to be correct because, of course, it takes a while to clear away the debris and to count all the casualties. In this case, this was at a school in Kabul, and so as many as 100 children were killed. They were Hazaras. Hazaras are Shiite. And so we immediately know the motive for the killing. That it was a Sunni suicide bomber going after Shiites. All right, Italy. Saman Abbas, an 18-year-old girl from Pakistan. And she disappeared on the night of April 30th, 2021, and has never been seen since. But her father, Shabar Abbas, and his wife, they fled back to Pakistan shortly after this, and now it has come to light that on June 8th, 2021, he was on the phone and the phone was tapped. And Shabar Abbas said, "For me, the dignity of others is not more important than mine. I left a son in Italy. I killed my daughter and I left. I don't care about anyone else at all." Now, it seems that he killed his daughter because she refused an arranged marriage. She refused to go to Pakistan to marry her cousin. And so consequently, Shabar Abbas killed her. This is, of course, the phenomenon of honor killing. There are many countries in the Islamic world that have reduced penalties for honor murders because they just don't consider them to be really murder. In France, David, this is the $500 question. A 35-year-old Sudanese man with legal residence status. He started to wave a knife around at a man on the street, and he started to shout for $500. What was he shouting?
Double Jeopardy. What is Allahu Akbar?
That's correct. The check will be in the mail, David.
That's why they think this is scripted. They think there's no way David could be right every single time.
That's right.
When, nope, not scripted. I really am this correct.
It's really because of your remarkable intellectual abilities. This gentleman, Idris M.A., they don't give the last names in the European press, but really you can tell oftentimes from the first names more than the last anyway. He was shouting, "Allahu Akbar, down with the French, I'm going to kill him." He lunged at this man, random man on the street, started punching him in the back and on his head, but before he could stab him to death, he was stopped. This was a story out of India, and this was a gentleman named Hemant Kumar Lohia, who's the officer in charge of prisons in Jammu and Kashmir, and he was murdered at a friend's home on the outskirts of Jammu. And the Pakistan jihad terror group Jaish-e-Mohammed claimed responsibility for killing Hemant Kumar Lohia. However, the Additional Director General of Police, which is a wonderful title, really. You're not the Director General. You're just the Additional Director General, in case we need an extra. The Additional Director General of Police, Jammu Zone, Mukesh Singh, said that it was not terrorism. So far, no terror act is apparent, as per the initial investigation, but a thorough probe is on to rule out any possibility. Now, here's a guy who is killed by Muslims, and a terror group claims responsibility, and it's not a terror act. Another category this week that is not altogether common, and it is the victims, poor Muslim victims, poor jihadi victims, and the very common tactic of blaming somebody else for one's jihad. The Ayatollah Khamenei leads off with that in this category. He has been silent during the entirety of the demonstrations in Iran until a couple of days ago, when he broke his silence and he blamed the US and Israel for the demonstrations. Because as you know, David, nobody could possibly be upset with life in the Islamic Republic of Iran unless they were stirred up by American and Zionist propagandists.
Yeah, it is a utopia, so.
Exactly. How could it not be? It enforces Sharia. And of course you can find all this on jihadwatch.org, the source of all these news stories, with the sources if you are skeptical about anything that we're saying.
Dear Muslim friends, if your Muslim leaders cannot properly represent Allah, the Quran and Muhammad, do you expect them to properly represent the Bible? If they lie to you about the Quran and the Bible, what else are they lying to you about? If you choose the God of the Jews and Christians, you must read the scriptures of the Jews and Christians to know their God. If you like what we do, please support this channel by subscribing and pressing the bell to be notified when a new episode is uploaded. Also, don't forget to like and share.